And welcome back, once again adventurers, to another episode of Let's Play ChäoS. In the last episode, Takumi decided, rather begrudgingly, to follow the mysterious ghostly train to the equally mysterious streetcar parked bizarrely in the middle of this particular area of Shibuya. And inside was a lone person, this girl right here, Sena, who we've encountered twice before. But this third time marks a very deliberate act on Sena's part, as not only does she, well, know that there is something rather unique and unusual about Takumi, something that he himself would clearly deny if pressed on this. But, well, seems like their paths are more connected than we first thought. Now, of course, the mysterious chain aside, Sena has actually been explaining about to explain a process known as visual rebuilding, which is, well, obviously different from virtual reality, even though they share the same initials. But I have a feeling that visual rebuilding, despite Sena's original or initial explanation, has there's a bit more to it than just repairing the eyesight of the blind.
ビデオカメラが映した映像も脳を流れる神経パルスもどちらも突き詰めれば電気による信号なんだぞ。
I wish I could tell you all what action potential stands for or is what it means, but I can't because the tips are still in Japanese. And there is absolutely nothing I can do about that. But what does this process have to do with film being captured on a video camera and being sent to your brain by electrical signals?
神経パルスにコンバートできる技術さえあればいい。すでに実際にテストは成功している。ある研究チームが特許を取得済みだ。
A patent, you say? What kind of patent? Are you serious? I've thought a fantasy was rather well developed, right down to the delicate little detail, but didn't saying it had been patented introduce some impossibilities? How so?
その特許から読み取れることがある。
Sena, who had been looking out the window this whole time, turned back in my direction, that very same piercing gaze. She slowly recrossed her legs.
ある意図的な情報を神経パルスへコンバートすることが可能なの。
Converting certain information to neural pulses. I'm suddenly getting a sense of deja vu, adventurers. And I believe you should be as well, because actually come to think of it, for those of you who have followed my Steins Gate Zero LP, and of course in tandem my Steins Gate LP, this should actually start to sound awfully familiar.
人の五感すべて、さらには人の意志そのものもコントロールできるんじゃないか。
That being said, I won't spoil anything here. I will make the appropriate comparisons later on as intended. However, that aside, Sena seems to be going down a very different tangent. Using neural information to be able to control people's senses, as well as their free will itself, which again is very foreboding. And very much in the territory of a certain insane mad scientist. Though Shibuya Station was right up there before my eyes, the inside of the streetcar was peculiarly quiet. Don't know why that word was hard to say. It felt as if all sound were being blocked out. Well, either this streetcar is incredibly soundproof, or something else is definitely going on. It was an illusion, of course, but I couldn't help remembering my delusion of an empty Shibuya from several days earlier. I couldn't take my eyes off the crowd moving outside the window.
さっき言ったように、人は電気仕掛けだ。
Well, given the fact that neuron signals throughout the brain are indeed electrical impulses. Your analogy is not entirely out of place.
脳だけじゃなく、全身に張り巡らされている神経にも電気が通っている。
In other words, that same electricity is also what tells the brain what we feel through our nervous system.
つまり、肉体的な動きまでも操れるということになる。理論的にはな。
As far-fetched as all this sounds, it's not entirely in the realm of impossibility. That being said, it is a very terrifying prospect. This girl, she dumbfounded me. I wouldn't be so quick to dismiss her words there, Takumi. She was far more delusional than the likes of me or you are. Again, don't be so sure about that. What she said sounded kind of logical, but wasn't it obviously made up? Unlike most Chunibu nutcases, Sena's logic has a very rational edge to it that makes it, while it might have its flaws and detractions, again, not entirely out of the realm of possibility.
事実、特許を取得した研究チームもその方向へと研究内容をシフトしている。
Interesting. So, whoever obtained that patent is clearly pushing their research forward. But to what end?
あまりに危険すぎる内容だったから、アメリカ大統領が歯止めをかけようとして行政命令を出したくらいだ。
Wait a minute. An American patent? And a direct order from the president himself? Or herself? Or whoever? Most likely himself. Probably. Not that we know who the American president is at this time being, or was in this case. We actually don't even know when that patent was first obtained. How much of what she was saying was real? Well, if Sena actually had a copy of that patent, probably most if not all of it.
いかなる機関であろうと、政府との事前合意なしに人体の機密の研究を行うことを禁じる。それを支援することも同様である。とな。
I wonder if that executive order actually worked, or whether the people behind the patent have instead shifted their aims elsewhere. Looking down, Sena clenched the hand she left resting upon her knee.
だが世の中は腐った連中ばかりだ。
Preaching the choir on that one, Sena. Preaching the choir indeed.
倫理を無視して自分の利益のためだけに他者を平気で犠牲にするような連中がな。ヘドが出る。
When her accusations ended, she stuck the last fragment of a melting crunchy coon in her mouth and abruptly rose to her feet. You're not the first person to express such sentiments, Sena, and you certainly won't be the last. I unthinkingly scooted back, but the wall was close behind me.
無知は罪だ。知らない方が幸せなこともあるという人間もいるが、そんなのはただの甘えだ。
Some people say, ignorance is bliss.
世界を疑え、仕組みを知れ。この世界は完璧じゃない。
Indeed. She turned in my direction. I started to cover my face with my arms, thinking she'd hit me, but Sena slipped past my side without doing anything. Well, I think we can breathe a sigh of relief on that one.
お前の見ている景色は本物か?
Muttering that without looking at me, right as she was on the verge of passing me, she vanished from the train on her own. Through the window, I dazedly watched Sena from behind as she left. She swiftly vanished into the waves of people without turning round even once. In the end, I hadn't been able to understand what she was trying to say. She has left us quite the poser, hasn't she? The most I could grasp was that she hated the world. Indeed, it was an archetypal form of adolescent rebellion. From my point of view, it was a nuisance to have her unilaterally expel her twisted tinfoil hat theories at me. Hate to break it to you, Takumi, but you are kind of a hypocrite in that area with your normies must explode attitude. With her tone being what it was, I felt like I was at a lecture. That manner of speech would be viable as a moe element in the second dimension, but all it did IRL was emphasize that no good delinquent air of hers. But I was relieved she hadn't attacked me. Yet. Somehow, something about her gave me the sense she was likely to go around beating people up without caring who they were. Depends on who those people are. Wanting to take a breather, I settled down into the seat that Sena had occupied earlier. Immediately after, a delinquent-looking couple abruptly entered the compartment. And after them followed a trio of obviously delinquent Kogels. Don't know what that even means. And then an aging older man and even a young suit-wearing salaryman. Now all of a sudden people suddenly packing into the streetcar. Strange. In practically an instant, the streetcar became cramped. What was this all of a sudden? No one had attempted to enter before Sena left. Strange phenomenon. The delinquent couple and the Kogels were too noisy for me, and I got out of there in a hurry, repeatedly hissing "die" in my head. Yeah, that criticism that you directed towards Sena, better suited directed at yourself. That's the piece of friendly advice. Meanwhile, back at the chat board, and back again with Grim. That last statement there, Grim, isn't entirely accurate. Actually, come to think of it, just on a bit of a tangent here, um, flashing back to the Steins Gate anime, I actually recall mention of a certain anonymous online person known as Neidhard. Um, and given the fact that Takumi's username on Insu and online is Nightheart, it's too much of a coincidence there. I wonder if that was if Neidhart spelled Neid Hart. I wonder if that's an Easter egg to Takumi's Nightheart. I wonder. Even after I returned home, the things Sena told me nagged at me. I didn't think they were true, naturally, but it shouldn't take more than a little investigation to determine whether the parts about the patent and the presidential order were real or fake. Well, if they're fake, you can just simply say that you called it. If they're not fake, however, which is why, with Grimm as my backup, I soon began running some searches. I researched with the help of one of Grimm's acquaintances, who is currently an American resident. How very convenient, since you'll probably never meet in real life. Meh, but it wasn't like we were going to find anything. Nowadays you can't believe anyone without a good source. Shiho was Grimm's aforementioned online friend. He lived in America and was fluent in English. Hopefully Sena doesn't catch you saying that out loud. But of course, Takumi is eager to have the last laugh on the matter.
Eh?
Oh dear. Perhaps you have laughed too soon, methinks, Nightheart. It exists. What did? So they actually found it. Well, if Takumi had asked Sena directly to cite her source, he probably would have called his bluff rather than the other way around. Then again, Grimm is usually notable for his trolling efforts
もしかして
in getting under Takumi's skin.
マジなのか
Grimm had tricked me all the time up until now. If I trusted him like usual here, I'd end up seeing something mind-breakingly nasty. Or perhaps another doodle. But he had a source, and he was even saying he'd invite Shiho. How very self-confident. It might be okay to trust them this time around.
くそ僕はなんてお人よしなんだ
Alas, you are. Too easy, in my book. Heart beating a little faster, I clicked the link while narrowing my eyes to keep from seeing anything clearly all at once.
なんだこれ
there it is. United States patent. So Sena was right. And a diagram. Space satellite, humanity, electric wave tower, data processor, Styon, and pen ponder, I think that is. I can't really see the final one too well. It was a document written in English with a strange diagram below it. In the middle of the diagram was drawn something resembling a human face. We're probably looking at a very different diagram, unless you're referring to the humanity diagram down there. The headline was United States patent. Patent must mean the same thing as Tokyo, or whatever. In other words, this was...
アメリカの特許
In other words, Sena was telling the truth.
VR 技術を知っているか？すでに実際にテストは成功している。ある研究チームが特許を取得済みだ。
It really existed. But where in America was this research even conducted? Next, I opened one of the two attached text files. Therein was a translation of some news that had touched upon the subject of this patent. The Physiological Psychology Research Laboratory of America's Mitochondria University. Oh, we've seen that before. It's all coming back. Steins Gate and Steins Gate Zero all over again. Which is currently active in research, has come up with a groundbreaking invention called VR, Visual Rebuilding Technology. Just as Sena told us. And that also brings up a very interesting connection. Not, well, necessarily here, right now, but a curious introspection. Because Mitochondria University has a very unique researcher on their staff. A researcher by the name of Kurisu Makase, who about this time would probably be 16. And of course, she was especially known for her own groundbreaking forays into the realm of neuroscience, even getting a publication in the Science magazine as well. And huge standing in the scientific academia community, although there were a few descendants and or dissidents and naysayers that mocked her work. But I wonder, could this patent have triggered her path into the realm of neuroscience? Because, yeah, if you have followed my Steins Gate and Steins Gate Zero Let's Plays, and of course if you haven't, spoilers by the way, Kurisu Makase's insights into neuroscience were instrumental in turning the phone wave real name TBA into the device known as the Time Leap Machine, which had the uncanny ability to transmute a person's neurosignals into compressed data and then actually send them back through time through the D-mail system. Well, not through the D-mail system, but using the phone wave itself as the means of sending one's memory back in time. In Steins Gate Zero, this technology was also used as the basis for the artificial intelligence known as Amadeus. So this is where it all started. Interesting, very interesting. As it was undertaken with healthcare in mind, this research had drawn the attention of blind people throughout the world. It is a landmark invention that allows even those who have been blind since birth to see what lies around them through the use of filming devices such as video cameras. Of course, whether or not it actually helps with their retinas and their eyes, it's a different matter. But looks like this is bypassing that with direct neurosignals into their brains. To provide a simple explanation of the technique involved in this, the signals composing the images of the scenery are recorded by the video camera are converted to action potentials, the one type of electrical signal that the brain is capable of recognizing. They then are connected to the optic nerve, which continues to the brain. It has already met with success in tests, and they have also acquired a patent, which we're now reading.
本当に認められてる。
Indeed. The things Sena told me hadn't simply been adolescent delusions. I think the appropriate phrase here is no shit, Sherlock. I gulped and opened the other text file. Let's see what it is. American government White House announcement issued on March 27th, 1997. The strengthening of protections against classified human experimentation. So, at least 12 years before the events of ChäoS aired. No organization may conduct classified experiments on human tests on human subjects, nor may they support such efforts in the absence of informed consent. This order takes effect on March 27th, 1998, or if the legislative process permits, before that date. So they were very eager to not have this be abused by any outside or inside organization. And of course, for those of you who have been following the Steins Gate and Steins Gate Zero chapters of the science adventure visual novels, you will know too well that there are other organizations out there that have been doing clandestine experiments. President of the United States, William J. Clinton. So I have a question. Does that disclaimer at the beginning of this still count? Because, yeah, I have a problem with this. And that is the fact that up until this point, by that I mean that, but you know the disclaimer, that whole thing about things being coincidental and everything. The reason I bring this up is because in Steins Gate and Steins Gate Zero, they at the very least to either use different people or in some humorous way actually alter their names. You couldn't do it with William Jefferson Clinton, Bill Clinton, really? Really, Nitro Plus? You couldn't do it with him, of all people? You couldn't give him a different last name? I'm not even going to dwell on it anymore, adventurers. This is hurting my brain. It really is. An executive order from the American president. And I shouldn't need to tell you what was happening in 1997 and 1998 at that time. If you were following up on world history. We're not going to delve into it. It's not relevant here. Its contents were the kind of thing you'd expect to see in a movie. I hadn't imagined even this would be part of reality. We have a very complex diagram on this page here. Brain imaging technique. Technique is spelled humorously, if incorrectly. I tried following the linked URL just in case. Even I can read English text. In spite of my appearance, I'm way smarter than those slackers who attend school every day. Not all people who attend school every day are slackers. But I digress. But the context tense actually written there were indeed the same as the translated text.
ということは
Sena's words reverberated at the back of my head.
ある意図的な情報を神経パルスへコンバートすることが可能なら、人の五感すべて、さらには人の意志そのものもコントロールできるんじゃないか。
It was a pretty difficult subject to process. What Sena told me in the online sources that backed her up made my spine go cold. I had the feeling that something fearsome was hiding in there. Well, it's very different from time-traveling technologies. What concerned me more than anything else, Sena's intentions in deliberately saying these things to me. Did it have anything to do with me? I wonder about that. Frankly, the part about being able to control people's free will didn't merely seem like somebody else's problem. Because there remained the possibility that I was a sleepwalker. And I hate to break it to you, Takumi, but there was one instance in which you weren't yourself. It seemed that on the day of the third New Gen incident, the staking, I had gone to our cafe and posted it in a chat as Shogun, though I remembered nothing of it. Never mind the fact that the timestamp between sending the message and receiving the message was completely all over the place, but never mind. Besides, I didn't have any memory of Rimi. Apparently she was a friend I'd been classmates with for over a year, and whom I'd hung out with countless times. But she didn't exist in my memory. What if I behaved like that while being manipulated from outside by someone else? For starters, there was no way I'd be able to become close to a cute girl like Rimi, given how bad I was at talking to 3D girls, and how bad I am at talking about the sentence. No, you're overthinking it. In any case, Grimm's information and sources check out, as do Sena's. At least the part about the chat was purely Yua's fantasy. Shogun existed separately, and all he'd done was to try and entrap me. Well, if he wanted to entrap you, he could have done so at the scramble, but he didn't. Setting aside the matter of whether his real identity was the elderly man who had appeared in front of the 107 building in a wheelchair, which I'm pretty sure is the case since he gave it himself. What if Sena too was an associate of Shogun? It's a possibility, but only a possibility at this point. Maybe she was attempting to mislead me by giving you correct information? That's an interesting twist of logic there. Don't swallow it without a grain of salt. Don't believe a suspicious and unfamiliar girl like her. Sena and Yura was birds of a feather. Given the fact that her information checks out, I would disagree with you. It'll be okay this way, right, Seratan? You depending on Sarah Orgel to get you out of every situation is going to be your undoing, Takumi Nishijiro. The post-awakening Sarah looked at me sorrowfully. I think that's probably a delusion on your part. She must be worried sick about me, hee. Again, reiterating last statement. And it's transition time yet again. To somewhere elsewhere. The only sound reverberating through the room was that of someone tapping at a keyboard, which is clearly Yuo Kusunoki typing on her personal computer. But that is going to be it for this episode of Let's Play ChäoS Head Adventurers, and when we return, we shall see what further investigations Yuo has gotten up to concerning Takumi and Nugent, if she's made any headway on that front at all. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.